All right, thank you so much for your patience. We're about to get started. We're just going to confirm the audio. All right, I see we've got the audio is working. And we're just going to check another venue that this is being broadcast on over on LinkedIn. Let me see here. Well, we're just going to go. Again, thank you so much for your patience. If on YouTube, please chat over questions at any point, and we'll go through those questions at the end. Today's a great topic. It's a hot topic right now. So in short, TD Ameritrade is no longer going to support solo 401k loans for their individual 401k accounts. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the options if you want to preserve the ability to have a 401k loan on your solo 401k that you got through TD Ameritrade. So let's get started with some basics. The presentation is being provided for educational purposes only and should not be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice, nor as a solicitation. When making an investment decision, please consult with your tax attorney and financial professional. So again, we're going to talk about the announcement that TD Ameritrade is no longer going to support individual 401k loans. What are your options? We're going to compare the TD Ameritrade Solo 401k with our plan, the process to upgrade it to our plan so you can keep that loan feature, and some important compliance considerations. So as of the end of this month, July 31st, TD Ameritrade's individual 401k plan no longer allows 401k participant loans. So what are your options? Well, you would have to upgrade your plan to a solo 401k plan that supports 401k participant loans. Keep in mind that if you upgrade your plan to our plan, you can still keep your investments, right? Your cash, your stocks, your mutual funds in an account at TD Ameritrade. Why work with us? Because we have deep experience and expertise supporting solo 401k participant loans. Moreover, we're going to guide you through the process to prepare the new accounts that will be needed for the restated plan, to transfer the cash and assets over, et cetera, et cetera. For any future loans that you want to take, we would prepare the required 401k loan documents for no additional charge. Of course, if you already have an outstanding loan, you would just keep those loan documents that you already have and just keep paying back the loan according to the existing payment schedule. We have hundreds of verified 5-star reviews. We have 0 negative reviews out there. So that's in short why you would want to work with us and what you would have to do. Again, you got to change your plan to a plan that allows you to continue to maintain the 401k loan feature. So let's take a look at some of the differences between a TD Ameritrade solo 401k plan and a self-directed solo 401k plan that we offer. So for those that are first setting up a plan, when you go to TD Ameritrade, they're not going to handle the plan document preparation, or of course we will, right? Which we do that within the same day or 24 business hours. When you want to take a loan, we prepare the loan documents. TD Ameritrade is no longer going to even allow for 401k loans going forward. On top of that, our plan allows you to invest in alternative investments with checkbook control. So for example, the new accounts that would be set up at TD Ameritrade are going to come with a checkbook feature. You could also add on a bank account, for example, which of course would be a checking account that has a checkbook feature. So why is that important? Well, for those, we have a lot of clients that set up accounts with us because they want to invest in alternative investments, right? It could be real estate or a private placement, precious metals, maybe a promissory note. So those clients find that it's helpful to have checkbook access to the money because they can act quickly to take advantage of an investment opportunity. When you're setting up a solo 401k plan directly with TD Ameritrade, with one of their basic plans, they're going to require that you have and provide an EIN number for your business, whereas we don't require that. Instead, we followed the IRS guidance, which is their regulatory expectation that a separate EIN is obtained for the plan. And we obtained that separate EIN for the 401k plan. As I mentioned up above, our plan allows for alternative investments like notes, crypto, real estate. Moreover, we provide all the ongoing compliance support for the plan, such as Form 5500 EZ preparation and submission. So the 5500 EZ would apply when the value of the plan assets exceeds $250,000. And since the pandemic, now the IRS allows you to file that Form 5500 EZ electronically. So that we now support that. And all of that is covered and included as part of our fee for no additional charge. In addition, 1099-R preparation and submission. When would a 1099-R be required? Well, if you're trying to make a Mega Backdoor Roth contribution, the way that you technically make that Mega Backdoor Roth contribution is you are taking advantage of the higher limits that apply to voluntary after-tax contributions, which is different than a Roth contribution. So those voluntary after-tax contributions have to go into a separate after-tax sub-account, and then they're moved over to the Roth Solo 401k sub-account, or it could go over to a Roth IRA. In either case, that move from the after-tax to the Roth is going to be a 1099-R reportable event, and we handle that as part of the service for no additional charge. As of course implied, our plan allows for Mega Backdoor Roth, whereas the TD Ameritrade plan no longer allows even for Roth contributions. And we'll talk about that change in a future webinar as far as the Roth change. Finally, outgoing ACH transfers. And that circles back to one of the top reasons that clients are setting up plans with us, which is they want to invest in alternative investments. So let's say you want to invest in a private placement. A lot of times the private placement investment provider will want all the investors to ACH their funds, their investment funds. So with our plan, again, you could have a bank account where you'd have that ACH capability. So that touches on some of the top differences, and we talk about some of the top different features as well. So now let's turn to the process. So the plan, again, would have to be restated. So to put it in context, all plans right now across the whole industry have to be restated, because all plans have to be restated every 6 years. Right now, we're in the middle of the cycle 3 restatement. So some of the brokerage firms that offer solo 401k plans are taking advantage essentially of the moment, right, of having to update their plan documents to change some of the features, because what your plan allows for is a function of what the documents provide for. So before, TD Ameritrade's plan documents allowed for a loan feature, right? So in connection with this, with having to update their plan documents anyways, they've decided to take that loan feature away. In addition, based on their published statements, right, this is driven by the merger with Schwab, right? So they want to align their plan features to what Schwab's solo 401k plan features allow or don't allow. And since Schwab's solo 401k plan doesn't allow for a loan, now TD Ameritrade's plan is not going to allow for a loan. So they're downgrading it, right? 1 + 1 is now equal to less than 1. So if you want to still have the ability to have a loan, you need a document that allows you to have solo 401k loan participant loans. So instead of updating the plan to the new TD document, which doesn't allow for a loan, you can update the plan to our document, which does allow for a loan. And TD's communications have spelled this out as far as, that's what you'd have to do. So the question becomes, well, how does that process work? Well, think of it like a cut and paste, right? So you're cutting out the existing plan documents and replacing them with our plan documents. But the plan continues, right? It's not a whole new plan, right? The plan continues, just the documents are being updated. So in that update, the way that that's done is called a restatement. So when we draft the documents, we want to draft it so it relates back to the original effective date. So if you look, when clients are signing up with us, we have a very simple online application. One of the questions asks if you have an existing plan. You would say yes, Solo 401k at TD Ameritrade and list that original plan effective date, so that when we draft the documents, we can have it relate back to that original plan effective date. We will obtain an EIN number for the plan. So 99% of the time, clients do not have a separate EIN number for the plan, but that is the regulatory expectation, the IRS expectation, that a separate EIN is obtained for the plan. So we will obtain that as part of the onboarding process. New accounts will have to be set up. The new accounts could be at TD or they could be somewhere else. We will draft the paperwork that's needed to open up those new accounts using that EIN number, using the name of the plan. Now, you might need multiple sub-accounts. For example, if you have multiple types of money, right? If you want to take advantage of the Mega Backdoor Roth, you'll need a pre-tax, a Roth, and then a third voluntary after-tax account. If there's multiple people participating in the plan, right? Let's say you have a husband and wife that are both working in the same business. In that case, it's one plan, but you've got different sub-accounts, right? So you might have 6 accounts, right? You might have a pre-tax Roth and after-tax account for spouse number 1, and then a second set pre-tax Roth and after-tax account for spouse number 2. So as part of that onboarding process, we'll draft the paperwork to open the requisite number of accounts. Then it's time to transfer the cash and assets over from the existing TD Ameritrade account to the new account. No final 5500 easy would be required because the plan is continuing, right? It's not as if the solo 401k plan that you had at TD is being shut down and now you're transferring to a new plan or a new account. In that case, a final 5500 easy would be required to properly wind down that plan. But here it's being restated, it's continuing. A 1099-R is not going to be needed because, again, the assets are not being rolled out to another retirement account. It's staying within the same plan. It's just that the plan documents are being restated. Additional important compliance considerations would be, do the assets in the plan exceed $250,000 as of December 31st, 2021 or before? If yes, have you been filing the Form 5500 EZ? If not, the 5500 EZ would need to be filed under the correction program, right? If you haven't filed it in a timely manner. Going forward, we handle, as I mentioned before, the Form 5500 EZ preparation and submission via the electronic process. Do you wish to keep investments, right? That's where it would be an in-kind transfer. In that case, it's generally best to have at least new accounts set up at TD Ameritrade to transfer those assets over in kind. That would be the smoothest process. You don't have to, but that would be the smoothest. Are there multiple participants? As I mentioned before, then you need the different sub accounts. If you haven't, in terms of contributions, if you're up against the contribution deadline, you might want to file an extension to give yourself time to set up the new accounts so that you can have plenty of time to make the contributions to the new accounts. And thank you so much for bringing the questions. Don't, again, hesitate to chat over more questions. We'll go through all of them at the end. So just to make sure we hit on all the key compliance support issues, of course, the Form 5500 EZ, we handled that as part of the service for an additional charge. The 1099-R, which would come up in the context of an in-plan conversion, like a Roth or Mega Backdoor Roth, rollovers, if you're rolling funds out of the plan, or distributions, if you're taking a taxable distribution, like an RMD, if you're of that age, for example. We handle all the required plan updates and amendments. Of course, these plan documents would reflect the Cycle 3 restatement, but of course, going forward, future amendments, we handled all of that automatically, proactively for all of our clients. Contributions is one of the top reasons that clients are setting up accounts with us, whether it's pre-tax Roth or Mega Backdoor Roth, and we're fielding questions from our clients every day in terms of how much to contribute. We have a great resource on our website in terms of how to report, lots of scenarios, lots of deep dive webinars, loan document preparation. Obviously, the focus of this session, as I mentioned before, if you have an existing plan at TD with a loan, you restate it to our plan, then you can continue to keep that loan feature. You would just continue to pay back the loan according to that existing loan schedule, but you pay it to the new accounts, right? So you want to make sure you hold on to those documents, because if you lose them, say 6 months later, it may be a challenge to go back to TD to get them to pull that out of the file. Going forward, if you want to take loans going forward, we would prepare the loan documents as part of our service for no additional charge. You'll now have the ability to invest in alternative investments. Again, and we're very hands-on in preparing all the paperwork to open up the accounts at the bank or brokerage of your choice, helping you set up accounts at a crypto exchange if that's what you're looking to do as well. All right, so thank you again so much for checking out this video. Please continue to chat over questions. We have plenty of time to go through those. As far as the first question here, which cryptocurrency exchanges have other My Solo 401k clients used and or recommend for crypto investment? So we're neutral as far as where you invest in crypto, right? As long as we're more focused on compliance. So the key is that you have the accounts at the crypto exchange opened up under the name and the EIN of the plan, right? You have separate sub accounts if you're trying to invest, say, both pre-tax and Roth in crypto. So based on, to answer your question, we have had clients open up accounts at many different exchanges. So some of those exchanges are, I would say, smoother, right? They really understand that clients are opening up accounts under a name and EIN of a trust, whereas others, that may be something that's more new to them. But your top options, or in terms of volume, is going to be Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, ErisX, FTX.us. Now, in terms of timing, definitely Coinbase, we've heard from clients based on feedback, it just takes a long time to open up the account there. Places that are based on, again, feedback that are much faster are going to be FTX.us and ErisX. And we have a lot of resources on our website for a number of exchanges, really webinars in terms of how to go through that online application process. So hopefully that helps. Thank you for bringing the good question. So while you think of more questions, I'll just highlight some of the resources we have. Number one, we have our community where we go live every day. And so, for example, we'll be back on Monday with our live Q&A webinar. We have forums where you can post questions 24/7. So let me resources. Feel free to join. All are welcome. It's a great way to learn and to share the knowledge. So for example, the website is mysolo401k.net/my-community. I'll put that in the chat here. So you can see, for example, we'll be back on Monday. And then we have the forums where people post questions 24/7, like I mentioned. So it's a great way to learn. You can come on there, post a question. You can see what other people are posting. Yes, so please don't hesitate to bring more questions here. Okay, suppose I transfer my Roth IRA into your 401k setup, and then a couple years later I want out. Can I simply transfer from your 401k into an outside Roth IRA, or must I wait for some triggering event? So first of all, the Roth IRA rules don't allow you to transfer Roth IRA funds to any type of 401k, including a solo 401k, whether it's our solo 401k plan or another company's solo 401k plan. So you're not going to be able to transfer funds from a Roth IRA. But let's say you transferred funds that were eligible to be rolled over, like if you had former employer funds that are in a Roth status, which we're seeing more and more of as folks become more and more aware of the ability to make Roth 401k contributions. So as long as those funds are in a former employer plan, you can roll them into the solo 401k plan. Of course, our plan, accommodates Roth solo 401k funds. They would go into a separate sub account, right? Because pre-tax funds are kept separate from Roth funds. Now, as far as the ability to roll funds out of the plan, you do have to consider the distribution rules, right? Which are statutory, right? It's not up to us. So generally, you're not able to roll money out of a 401k plan or a solo 401k plan until you're 59 and a half years of age, right? But there are are exceptions where you have to look at the source of the funds. You may be able to roll out certain funds if the plan allows for it. So funds that you rolled into our plan, like in that scenario where you had former employer funds that were Roth funds that you rolled in, you would be allowed to roll those out at any time, right? In which case you could roll it out to a Roth IRA. That would be a reportable event, which, as I mentioned before, we handle that 1099-R reporting as part of our service for no additional charge. So, of course, if you roll it out to a Roth IRA, you're not going to be able to bring it back, right? Because of the Roth IRA rules we mentioned above. But hopefully that helps. Appreciate the good question. We do have time if you want to add, if there's any more questions. Thank you again so much for the participation. It says, okay, so I have a pre-tax rollover IRA Fidelity. If I put that money into your 401k, can I take it back can I take it back out at any time? Like before I hit age 59 and a half? Yes, because that's a rollover contribution. So you can roll out what you were able to roll in. Let me show you the page on our website. We'll bring up a resource here. And if you got more questions, don't hesitate to chat them over. If you go to our website, mysolo401k.net, there's a search box in the upper right. If you were to search for making solo 401k distributions, it's going to show you that a good page that goes over those rules, because really it's the same rules whether it's a distribution or a rollover. And I'll chat over the link here in the Zoom. Yes, just to follow up with this line of questioning, but annual contributions put in after the 401k started, those have to wait until age 59 and a half to remove. Yes, that's a general rule, right? If you look at that page, you'll see a lot more detail, but yes, that's the general rule of thumb. Thank you so much for bringing the good questions. Next question, how complex is a 401k loan? How complex is investing outside the account? Are these relatively straightforward transactions, or do they involve lots of legal work? So great questions. So a 401k loan is easy, right? I mean, clients let us know, we send them an email to capture the information that's needed to draft the loan documents. We turn around within 24 hours. You just simply write a check, or you could transfer it electronically, the funds out of the 401k account to your personal account to fund the loan. Then you just make sure you pay it back according to that payment schedule, which is of course part of those loan documents that we're preparing. You can use the money for any type of purpose that you want whatsoever. In terms of the terms, you're able to borrow up to 50% of the balance, not to exceed $50,000. You have to pay back that loan on either a monthly or quarterly basis, equal payments of principal and interest, with the interest is either prime plus 1% or a CD rate, right? A comparable CD rate plus 2%. Those payments are spread out over a 5-year term. You can prepay it early with no penalty, etc. Next question, again, thank you for the good questions. How complex is investing outside the account? Are these relatively straightforward transactions, or do they involve lots of legal work? Well, it depends, right? So, when you say how complex is investing outside the account, presumably you mean something that's not offered, say, through that TD Ameritrade brokerage account, right? Like the alternative investments we talked about. So for some people, it's straightforward, right? A lot of people, let's say you're a realtor, you're self-employed, right? You know real estate. So you may not know Wall Street type investments. So for you, investing in real estate is something it's relatively straightforward. The key from a solo 401k compliance perspective is that It can't be a prohibited transaction, meaning there's no transactions with a disqualified party. You can't buy a piece of real estate from yourself or a close relative like a parent or a spouse. You can't use the real estate for personal use. You can't work on the property. When you buy the real estate, the money transfers from the solo 401k account to the seller or maybe the title company or the escrow. The title is done in the name of the plan, right? If it's a rental property going forward, all the income and expenses, right? Like those rent checks are coming back to the solo 401k account, et cetera, et cetera. If it's a private placement, again, it's titled under the name, under the EIN of the plan, right? Because the private placement investment provider, right? It might be a syndicate. It's getting money from different investors. They're going to have to issue a K1 to all the investors. Well, they need to issue that K1 under the EIN of the plan. So getting that EIN under the name of the plan, now when the IRS gets that tax reporting, they understand that that income is growing inside of a 401k on a tax deferred basis, as opposed to if you had made that investment under your business EIN. Now they're going to look for that income to be reported on your business tax return. So when we're fielding questions all the time, we have a wealth of information on our website about how to make those different types of investments. And I would say, based on experience, a lot of times clients, they may have a lot of questions in terms of how to do it, but they sort of get the idea going forward. And of course, we're here if they have questions, but they don't necessarily have to come back to us for approval. They can act quickly to make investments. Hopefully that helps. Great question. Great questions. Next question. TD Ameritrade is a brokerage. Is it also a bank that offers checkbook to write out available funds as I see fit, or do I need another traditional bank for this function? Great question. So a number of the brokerage firms, including TD Ameritrade, for the types of accounts that we're setting up for your solo 401k, it will come with a checkbook feature. Now, it's not certified bank checks, right? But you get the checkbook. And for some folks, that's good enough, right? Now, for others, they do want to have the ability to get certified bank checks, which you're not going to be able to get from a TD Ameritrade brokerage account, or they want the ability to have debit card access, so which you're not going to get from any of the brokerages. I mean, practically, why would someone want that? Let's say you want to invest in real estate and you want to go to an auction where you need a certified bank check to get access to that auction. So you would need a bank account under the solo 401k in order to get that certified bank check. And you can have both, right? You can have both bank accounts and brokerage accounts. You can move money between the accounts, right? Like let's say you have pre-tax and Roth brokerage, pre-tax and Roth bank. You could move money between pre-tax and Roth bank and brokerage accounts. That's not a taxable event. It's not a reportable event. You're just moving money between sub-accounts. So let's say you make an alternative investment through that bank account. You essentially liquidate that investment, then you move the money back to the brokerage so you can invest in, maybe like a mutual fund or something while you're, until the next deal comes along. Hopefully that helps. Thank you so much for the good questions. Are we open to work with any bank for the trust bank account, or do you have specific banks you work with? So we're neutral as far as where the bank account is at. But at the same time, we're hands-on as preparing bank account packets. We have clients at hundreds of different banks, right? So it's a good chance, right, based on your geographic area, we can tell you where other folks have opened up accounts at. We can also get on the phone and speak to your banker to help answer any questions. We take a methodical approach to preparing this bank account packet. And generally, it's best if you forward the packet to the banker, then bring us on the phone if they have any questions. Of course, there are certain online banks that are very happy to help open up accounts for solo 401k plans, but a lot of clients, they prefer to be able to walk into a branch for whatever good reason. And again, we're neutral, but we definitely are, been helping people do this for many, many years. And so we'll be able to leverage all that experience to make the process easier for you. Hopefully that helps. Thank you for the good question. Next question. I had a plain vanilla solo 401k at Fidelity. I was able to remove any and all money into an after-tax rollover IRA at any time. is that not the same at my solo 401k? Well, I mean, regardless of where the plan, who is the plan provider, you know, there are going to be those certain core distribution rules that are going to apply, right? Because they're statutory. So sometimes you can have some variation, right? You have certain statutory rules that apply to every plan, right? And then there can be variation within your plan documents, right? Like the statute allows for Roth, but you have to have a plan document that also allows for Roth, right? The rules that apply to your plan specifically, right? So in the context of the distribution rules, right, the statute allows for rollover contributions to be rolled out at any time unless the plan document provides otherwise. So sometimes the plan documents are more restrictive on those rollover type funds. Generally, they're not, but sometimes you do see that. So, of course, it would depend on your situation. It could have been a certain type of contribution, or it could have been a rollover. I'm not sure, of course, but definitely those rules apply to all plans, those core rules. So hopefully that helps. Do you support setting up a solo 401k account with Vanguard? So we're neutral as far as, you know, because it's our plan that we're providing, but we don't hold any of our customers' money. We're not giving investment advice. You know, we never have access to your accounts. We have clients at hundreds of different banks, many different brokerages. So we're happy to really work with any brokerage as long as they're willing to open up an account for a third-party plan. Vanguard's in that population of brokerage firms where in the past, right, there was lots of accounts that were being set up at Vanguard, but really not anymore because their support for third-party plans is very, very limited. For example, you can't have a Mega Backdoor Roth account set up at Vanguard because they require a pooled account structure, which is not compatible with a Mega Backdoor Roth setup. It's not even compatible if you have multiple participants in the plan. So hopefully that helps. Thank you for the good questions. Thank you so much. We definitely have more time if there's more questions. Okay, please. Take your time. Okay, thanks for the good question. 1 second. Someone might be in the hall here trying to get in. Suppose I terminate let's put it on the screen. Suppose I terminate my solo 401k plan entirely before hitting age 59 and a half. Can I then transfer all the money into a rollover IRA? Yes. If the plan is being shut down, you can transfer the funds out. Of course, that would have to be not only reported on a 1099-R, you'd have to have a final 5500 EZ filed to properly wind down the plan. Regardless of the source of the money. When the plan's being shut down, it can be funds can be rolled out at any time. Great questions. Thank you so much. So again, we just plug, you can go to the community, mysolo401k.net/my community. It's free to join. All are welcome. We have daily live webinars. You can post questions 24/7 in our forums. So it's really a great way to learn and, share the knowledge. Okay, so let's get another question put up there. If both spouses have a 401k plan, could each of them borrow 50,000 for a total of 100,000? So yeah, the 401k plan limits apply at the participant level. So as long as each spouse has at least $100,000 of plan assets, they're going to be able to borrow up to 50% of their particular plan assets, not to exceed $50,000. So for example, if one spouse has 60, the other spouse has 200, the first spouse could borrow 30, the second spouse could borrow 50. Well, it looks like that might be winding the questions down. Again, thank you for the participation. Please like this video on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel. We post a webinar, we post a daily solo 401k video questions every day. So it's a great way to just stay in touch and learn. So thank you so much. Yes, have a great weekend. Take care.